Hey guys, it is time to check in with how these seedlings are doing and to look at what I am going to be planting out for the cut flower allotment garden in May. For anyone that doesn't know, my name is Peggy and I am coming into my third year of growing a cut flower allotment garden here on my allotment in Kanagawa Prefecture, Japan, which is just south of Tokyo in USDA Zone 9B. Thanks for checking out my channel. Okay, so these are the seeds that I still have growing on in my little seed pod here. Some of them have been in for ages, like my Lisianthus, which are still so tiny, but they are starting to put on more leaves, so I'm just going to leave them going. This is my Lisianthus mix, and these are my Lisianthus purple, and this is the one that I was really excited about, my Lisianthus peach. Now, if you've been following along, you'll know that all of these fell out of my little seed pod on a windy day and landed on my head, so none of these ones survived. I'm saying these are the mix and the purple. I mean, that's a true mix because I just kind of scooped everything back up and put it in. So I wasn't sure if any of these were going to survive, but they're doing okay, so they're there. These are going to be going in the spot in the garden where my ranunculus are currently blooming, so they've still got a little while to sit here and get a bit bigger before I transplant those out into the garden when the ranunculus are done flowering. As well as that, I have the statice that I planted, I'm going to say around March. I planted this, and again I have a statice mix, which is doing really well and big and leafy, and then this is the statice peach, which is taking a little bit longer, but it's not far behind. So these are going out in that same ranunculus patch next to my rudbeckia. So once the ranunculus are gone, I'll do half and half of these guys. And then I have my Cosmos, yay! And this is my Cosmos double click mix. I'm only growing one type of Cosmos this year because it doesn't do well in my climate. It is too hot here in the summer and this stuff just shrivels up, turns brown and crunchy. So I'm putting in a lot less Cosmos than I usually do in my garden, but that frees up room for more stuff. Okay, so what do I have to see today? First up, I have some Globe Thistle. This one is the saffron thistle, safflower, and this is actually used sometimes in dyeing as a cheaper alternative to saffron to get that beautiful colour. These are going to be going in where my anemone are currently, so I'm hoping that my anemone look like they're on their way out anyway, so I'm going to get these in and get them a little bit grown before I put them in the garden, mainly because we are about to come into May, and the end of May, beginning of June is rainy season in Japan, and quite often a lot of my seeds get washed away in the rainy season, so I actually want them to have a really strong root system in place before I put them in the garden. So I'll start these now and then put them in when the anemone are done. Next up I have I'm calling these my hairy balls, and it's not just me, like it actually says there, look, if you read Japanese, it says hairy balls. So these are just some really fun little things that I thought would be good at the end of the season. So I'm going to plant these now, and they will start to bloom from August right through to mid-November. So this is going to be just a little bit of something fun and hopefully tall. It grows between 80 and 100 centimeters. So hopefully something tall and fun to add a little pop and hopefully match up quite well with my Queen Lime Zinnia towards the end of the season. So I've got some of them going in. Then I am going to be planting my Strawflower. Now this year I have this kind of soft pastel mix. This is it's basically just white and pink. This is the only one that I could really find at my local shop, and so I thought, right, I've got a lot of peaches in the garden. I've got the peach status, I've got the kind of apricot status, and something else, can't remember, but I thought that would match quite well with them, and I like this for drying, and I tend to use it in my spring arrangements, but dried arrangements before any of my spring flowers have come up, so they're okay colours for that. But I am also going to plant some of the ones that I planted last year, which was this much brighter mix, so I've got some of these going in too. As well as that, I have, there's no picture of it, these are capsicum, and they are an ornamental pepper. Now towards the end of the season last year I was thin on the ground for things. I wanted to extend my season a bit longer, but I didn't really have much other than the very last of my dahlia and my zinnia, and I didn't have so much because I hadn't planted amaranth, which I'm trying to correct this year. I didn't really have much to go with them, and my next door neighbour, allotment neighbour, who obviously grows his allotment for eating like most people, had in these really cool little peppers, and they were all different colours on one bush. There were white ones and orange ones and red ones, and I thought that's really cool, I want that. So that's what these are. They are a little ornamental pepper, which I'm hoping will look really good at the end of the season and just be something, along with my hairy balls, to be a bit fun in my end of season arrangements. So again, these are not going to be going in until much later in the season, but I'm going to get them started now. Then I've got a few things that I have tried before that didn't work. The first is I'm going to plant some phlox. Now this is the Phlox creme brulee, and it's really pretty, and I've seen them and they're big and they're bushy and they're lovely, and I planted them and one of them germinated and it gave me one tiny little stem which had about 4 flowers on it. So I don't know what went on, but I am going to try it again. Now these are old seed, so I'm not sure how that's going to go. So if you watched my last video I did about the seeds when I was planting my cosmos and status and things, you'll know that I also planted some Chinese forget-me-not because I really liked having that in the garden. It was beautiful, it was the mystic pink one, and I really liked it, and I wanted to have more of it this year, but I planted that at the same time and nothing. I'm guessing it was old seed and it just did not want to germinate, although looking now, maybe I've got one coming. So I'm not going to give up on these yet, but it was older seed, and I have had problems with germinating older seed before. Now they say that you should be able to keep seed for 3 or 4 years, but I'm just not finding that to be the case. I don't know if it's the humidity or the heat here, I don't know. I am keeping them in sealed containers out of sunlight, so I don't know. But I'm not sure how well these are going to do, but I have the seeds, so that's why I'm not going to direct sow them, because I don't want to be waiting and waiting and waiting in the garden and then nothing happen and end up with a bare patch. So I thought if I start them at home, I'll at least know if they're going to germinate, and then I can be putting actual plants into the garden to make sure that I'm getting the most use out of my tiny allotment. It's only 4 meters by 5 meters, so I have to be really economical with what I put in there. The other things I'm putting in are again ones that I tried last year, and these are my China Aster. Now for some reason I seem to have bought almost exactly the same. This one is a Duchess series, and it's the Duchess Apricot, and this one is the King series and is a king size apricot. So I guess that one looks a bit like spikier and it has some yellow in it, whereas that one's definitely curlier and fluffier. Now I had these in the garden and they germinated and they started well, and I planted them out, but I hadn't pulled my stalk up. My stalk didn't do well because I'd planted that too late in the season, and the stalk became a house for Japanese beetle, and they lived in there and then came out and had a little buffet on my aster, and they ate every single one. It broke my heart. I didn't get a single bloom. So I thought I'm going to try them again this year, but this year I will pull my stalk and make sure there is nowhere for the beetle to be hiding. So again, that is 1-year-old seed, so I don't know how well it's going to do, but I'm going to plant it up anyway. Okay, so to sow these all, I am putting them in these little boxes. I got these online, no affiliate links, but I just really like them. They come with a clear case, so it's really easy to see the roots and see when you need to be potting stuff on. These have holes in the bottom. This is a tray which is solid, so you can water into the tray, which makes it a lot easier. I found last year I had a huge problem with seeds wetting off, not liking being top watered, so this has made a huge difference to my germination rate. As well as that, they come with their own little humidity dome, and you can change this. So like I said, I just found these online. I got a pack of 10 in one set, and they have been a complete game changer for me this year. My germination is so much better. So I'm going to plant them into these. Again, my soil is already pre-moistened. I always pre-moisten my soil. I mix it up in a big bowl beforehand and then fill all these at the same time. That just means that because some of these seeds are so small, when you go in to water them after they're planted, you tend to, the soil is dry, so it kind of fills up and bubbles over and makes a mess, and you quite often displace the seed or lose the seed altogether. So it's much better if you put your seeds into wet soil, and then you do not need to water them after they've been planted. That's my plan. So I don't need very much. Like I say, my allotment is only 4 meters by 5 meters, and these are just kind of little bits and bobs and filler. None of these, with the exception of the Strawflower, are particularly focal flowers. They're all just extra bits for me to have. And my garden is a constant experiment of growing different things each season to see what I like, what grows well in the climate. So it's more of an experiment. So I'm not going to plant very many of each one. Saying that, I don't know how many of each one I'm going to plant. Let me think. Okay, so I'm going to start with my Strawflower, and in one tray which has 12 cells, I'm going to do 6 of one type and 6 of another. I would like to have more than that, but these guys grow really, really big and really, really tall, and I don't have that much room for them in the garden. So I think 6 of one and 6 of the other should be enough to really fill out and give me enough flowers for what I want to do. There are some very enthusiastic tennis players behind me. This has really, really tiny small seeds. Now, because this is older seed, I am going to go ahead and put a few more seeds than I normally would in each one, just in case the germination rate isn't great on them. Okay, so next I am going to do my ornamental pepper and my phlox. Now, I don't have very many of these seeds, and I'm not sure about their germination, so I'm just going to try 3 cells of these and 3 cells of the pepper, because again, these are just for fun. I don't really need that many of them. Let's do that. Next, my Globe Thistle, and I do have an allocated space in the garden for these, so I'm going to go ahead and do a full 12 of these. Also, I've never grown this before, so I don't know, I might even get the bag open. I don't know how much of a branching form it's going to be, how many flowers I'll get off each one. Wow, they're like corn kernels, look at those. So yeah, I'm really not sure how this is going to grow. So I'll go with too many, and if I have to thin them out, if they start to get too big, then we'll deal with that. Okay, so next my hairy ball, and exactly the same. I've got a small area allocated for them, but again, this is the first time I've ever grown them, so I'm not sure what they're going to be like in terms of size and branching habits, and how many I should expect to get off each one. If you've grown any of these before, please do let me know what your experience with them has been, how many you get off each plant and how big the plants get. That would be great, really helpful. But that's why I like to try and grow different things in my garden each year, is to figure out what I like, what works well, and how everything needs to be grown in the garden. But for this one, I'm going to put in 12 and hope that gives me lots come the autumn. And that just leaves me my Aster, and I'm hoping to get 6 of each one, and maybe this year I'll actually get a flower. Oh, these guys caused me so much stress last year. Again, this is old seed, so I'm just going to use whatever I have left and get it all in the mud. Oh, maybe I'm not. There's loads of them. They're tiny. All done. Okay, so I have got these all in my little seed pod here. I no longer close this up because it's just too hot here now. They would absolutely fry if I did this up, but it does help protect them from the wind a little bit. I will leave these humidity domes on until I have about 70% germination, and then I will take them off so that these guys don't wet off. I can also adjust the ventilation holes, so if you've got a few that have come up and but you're still waiting for the rest, I like to open the ventilation just a little bit to make sure that the ones that have come up first don't wet off. But I will leave them in there like that to grow on, and then when my spring flowers are done in the garden, I will be replacing them with these guys. So hopefully this is enough to get me right through to the end of the season, and into hopefully the Christmas season as well. Now, the only thing I still have to plant out is my African marigold, and I am not planning on doing them until much later in the season. They will be replacing my snapdragon, and although you could plant them now if you wanted, and they would bloom around the July, I want mine to be blooming closer to September. Now, because I'm in zone 9B, I have a very long season. My first frost isn't until December, so I want those to really take me through right through to the end of the season with the last of the dahlia and my Strawflower. So I won't be seeding those for a lot later. But for now, my seed pod is all filled up. that is all from me for today. If you want to follow along and see how these do and see what is going on in the garden, remember to hit the subscribe button below. If you want to see what I do with all my cut flowers, you can look back over everything I've done over the last 2 seasons on my Instagram page, which is From the Witch's Garden, and I'll put a link to that below as well. If you're wondering about my fishy flags behind me, the 5th of May is Kodomo no Hi here in Japan, which is a celebration for little boys. The 3rd of March is celebration for little girls, Hina Matsuri, but we are about to have Kodomo no Hi, so these are up to celebrate my son. And we have 1 fish for each member of the family. So if you have any little boys at home, I hope you have a nice Kodomo no Hi, and I will see you guys next week. Bye!